The article was actually it's by this best friend. It was mailed to Annie's mailbox. It's a weekly editorial, or say a column, and it talks about human nature, about problems that people want to ask Annie. What is your idea? How can you help me? So this was an interesting article, and we'll talk about how it relates to pleasure, desire, pleasure, and pain. Again, I'll read the article, and the title is "There's No Pleasing Self-Absorbed Friend." So here we're talking about best friend writes to Annie's mailbox, and she's bewildered. She doesn't know what to do because, remember, she's doing everything she can to continue this relationship with Natalie. Natalie seems to be a passive-aggressive individual. Could never be happy. But best friend has decided that Natalie is a friend, so she's going to do whatever she can to please her and to make her happy. And it's interesting that you may have someone like this, that you always, or even your parents, you might have a parent that you find is constantly angry or constantly sad or kind of depressed. Might be your husband, might be your wife. But the point is, we're always wanting to help them. We always want to change them. So our whole life is wanting to say, all our energy is trying to help them. So if we take desire in best friend, her desire is to change Natalie's state. She sees Natalie as in pain because Natalie's never happy. Remember the story where best friend threw a fantastic party for her? And Natalie, even though all the friends were doting over her, Natalie was still unhappy. She was still sad. And so now best friend was, bewildered. She was just giving up. She was wondering if she should just write Natalie off because it just frustrates best friend. Now desire is, again, best friend wants to change the pain to that is in Natalie. And if best friend was able to change the spirit of Natalie to a pleasure, I would say best friend would also feel pleasure, because when we give pleasure to someone else, that individual responds with pleasure, and we feel even more pleasure because now we feel we have power. Our power is increased. The other scenario is what frustrates best friend, is that Natalie doesn't really feel good about all the things that she's receiving, all the friends, all the parties, all the doting from her friends. Doesn't seem to uplift her. And so now best friend is in pain. So we're talking about desire, a desire for Natalie to be different. Pleasure, if she did feel pleasure, best friend would also feel pleasure. And this is an increase of power. And however, Natalie feels pain. Pain is a transition from a greater to a less, and consequently, best friend also feels pain. And this pain, she'll feel frustration, and now she may want to get out of the relationship. This desire, pleasure, and pain, basically, as Spinoza says, is behind all the emotions that we experience: love, hatred, jealousy, envy, and we plan to get into those other emotions. But I would say that for us to become aware of ourselves, be aware of how we feel pleasure, what causes pleasure and what causes pain. The idea of this is to become aware of ourselves, aware of how we're thinking. And I would, again, I can't emphasize this enough. The idea of having a journal. You see, I constantly write. Here I'm reaching for my journal, and I'm constantly writing. I started this in this journal in November of 2009, and here we are in February. And I would say I write something down every day about myself, a problem I might have, a desire I might be aware of, or a painful experience. I think, again, when you write something, include the experience that occurred, and then see where it goes. Begin to write without judgment. This is your journal. Start this. Begin this. Because again, the goal is to become more awakened, to be conscious of our desires. Because when we get to know how the emotions work in us, we're able to have, say, more power. And in a sense, we are able to temper some of these emotions that have been out of control, so to speak. The improvement of the understanding also, if you get and remember the ethics, gives us the purpose of what Spinoza was trying to achieve. Again, I will re-emphasize I'll repeat myself many times, only because I think that we don't really understand clearly. We think we do. We read something and we assume we know it. I would say that is a trick. The trick is that we don't really see clearly, and consequently we don't really understand. And this is why Spinoza talks about the improvement of our understanding. The goal that he had was that he wanted to find out if there was anything out there in nature that would stimulate him in a way that would give him the happiness, the fulfillment, the joy that was, say, lasting, that wasn't temporal. Because he did experience pleasures, desires, and pain in his pursuits. And therefore, I would also recommend to read The Improvement again. The following idea that I'm having is that from these ideas is that whenever an individual begins to examine himself, it begins to generate, I would say, an activity, an inner activity of self-examination. And this, I would say, begins to awaken our essential nature. After all, we are conditioned by the environment we grew up in. We are taught that who we are. We experience different things that accidentally happen in life, and we gain a knowledge from these different experiences, but they don't tell us clearly what the experience is, as far as the causes of the experience, and our learning consequently limits our understanding. I'll give you another example of an article I read recently. The article is about, this is the title. This again was in the Daily Breeze, a local paper here in San Pedro. It says, and there's a lady